fates worse than death, and I have lived them all. They didn't tell us what we were signing up for until it was too late to go back, until the lines were blurred and the world we knew ceased to exist, replaced by something far more unsettling. For many, the SCP Foundation is a myth, a whispered conspiracy theory. But I remember the day the veil was lifted, the moment the true nature of reality presented itself with a chilling clarity that burned away all prior notions of safety and order. This was not a choice. It was a calling, a brutal baptism into a hidden war, and at its forefront, standing between humanity and oblivion, are the SCP Containment Guards. Today, we step behind the reinforced doors and into the unforgiving world of those who secure, contain, protect. We'll uncover what it truly means to be one of these silent sentinels, the sacrifices they make, and the horrors they face daily. What happens when the world you thought you knew is a precarious illusion, easily shattered by things that defy explanation? The journey to becoming a containment guard begins not with a uniform, but with an erasure. Recruitment into the Foundation is unlike any other process known to civilian life. It starts subtly, often targeting individuals with specific skill sets, former military personnel with exceptional combat records, highly adaptable law enforcement officers, or even individuals with a demonstrated capacity for extreme problem-solving under duress. But I did not feel like a recruit. It felt more like an assimilation, a gradual absorption into an organization that operates entirely outside the conventional frameworks of governments and societies. The vetting process is exhaustive, reaching back generations, scrutinizing every relationship, every decision, every minor infraction. This was not about finding heroes. It was about finding those who could become instruments, reliable and resilient, capable of executing orders without question. Psychological profiles are meticulously built, designed to identify not just resilience, but a profound capacity for compartmentalization, a vital trait when dealing with information that would unravel the sanity of an ordinary person. They look for individuals who can suppress their own fear, their own moral compass when necessary, for the greater good. It was as if they were looking for a specific type of void within, a space that could be filled with the Foundation's unwavering purpose. Once identified, the training commences, and it is a brutal metamorphosis. The civilian identity is systematically dismantled, replaced by the Foundation's ethos. The modules are relentless, pushing physical and mental limits to their absolute breaking point. Combat training moves beyond conventional warfare. It focuses on rapid threat assessment and engagement protocols against entities that defy known physics. Hand-to-hand combat drills are adapted for opponents that might be intangible, polymorphic, or possess unnatural strength. There are live-fire exercises in simulated containment breaches where recruits learn to navigate volatile environments, prioritize targets, and protect Foundation assets, often terrified researchers. Anomaly handling becomes a practical art. Recruits are taught advanced restraint techniques for entities that cannot be simply handcuffed. They learn to operate specialized equipment like Scranton reality anchors, a device that stabilizes local reality, or mimetic dampeners, designed to prevent the spread of dangerous informational hazards. But this was not just about physical prowess. The most insidious training modules delve into emergency protocols designed to operate in scenarios where the impossible has happened, where the very fabric of reality is tearing and every decision carries existential weight. These sessions are designed to break assumptions, to force recruits to think beyond the limits of their civilian understanding. During this period, psychological fortitude is not just a desired trait, it is the currency of survival. Recruits are exposed to simulated cognitohazards, images, or sounds designed to subtly twist perception or induce debilitating terror. They learn to identify and resist mimetic agents, pieces of information that, once perceived, can alter behavior or beliefs. The objective is not immunity, for true immunity is often impossible, but rather control, the ability to recognize, report, and mitigate the effects of these phenomena while maintaining operational effectiveness. I remember the pervasive feeling of unease, the constant questioning of what was real and what was merely a psychological projection. It was a perpetual state of vigilance, a self-inflicted paranoia designed to prepare us for the genuine articles. The Foundation instills a pervasive need-to-know principle, a layered system of information dissemination that ensures no single individual holds the complete picture, a safeguard against information breaches and catastrophic psychological breakdown. This ethical framework, or rather the practical application of it, became the bedrock of our new existence. We were not to question the necessity of actions, only to execute them flawlessly. The ethics were simple: secure, contain, protect. Everything else was secondary. This was the transition from an ordinary person to a cog in the most extraordinary machine. A day in the life of a containment guard is a paradox, a blend of mind-numbing routine and heart-stopping terror. My shifts often began with equipment checks, a meticulous inventory of every flashbang, every magazine, every piece of specialized gear. Communication systems were tested, encrypted, and secure, our only link to command and the outside world, such as it was. Patrol routes were monotonous, endless circuits through sterile, reinforced corridors, past heavy blast doors marked with orange warning symbols and cryptic SCP designations. The air was always recycled, smelling faintly of ozone and disinfectant, a constant reminder of the unseen threats that lay just beyond the steel and concrete. Log updates filled the quieter hours, meticulous records of observations, environmental readings, and personnel movements. But this quiet was a deceptive veneer, a thin skin over a boiling ocean of potential catastrophe. The containment guards are the frontline interpreters of the Foundation's classification system: Safe, Euclid, Keter. A safe class anomaly might seem benign, easily contained with minimal resources. But even safe can turn deadly if protocols are breached or overlooked. We reinforced chambers, monitored environmental controls, and oversaw routine experiments, always with a nagging awareness that even the inert can surprise. Euclid-class anomalies are more unpredictable. Their behavior isn't fully understood, or their containment requires significant resources to prevent escape or mitigate effects. This often meant constant monitoring, specialized sensory equipment, and quick reaction forces on standby. Here, patrols carried a different weight. Every anomaly had its own specific, often convoluted containment procedure, and we were the ultimate enforcers of those rules. But it is the Keter class that truly defines our existence. These are entities with a high likelihood of breaching containment, or whose effects are so widespread and dangerous that they pose an existential threat to humanity. Encounters with Keter-class anomalies are not mere patrols. They are acts of sheer defiance against the inevitable. I remember the constant vigilance, the way my senses sharpened even during the most mundane tasks. The sound of a distant clang, a flicker in the fluorescent lights, a minor tremor. Each could signify the start of a nightmare. One shift, the quiet was suddenly shattered. The automated warning system blared, red lights flashing wildly as an unexpected containment breach occurred in Sector 3. A Keter-class entity, designated SCP had exhibited an unprecedented behavioral shift, circumventing its primary containment. The immediate response was chaos, yet highly organized. Alarms screamed for personnel to evacuate non-essential areas, while rapid response teams, including mine, sprinted towards the breach. The air, filled with static from comms, frantic orders, and the distant sounds of impacts and energy discharges. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I felt nothing else, just a cold, analytical focus. We moved as a unit, each member knowing their precise role, weapon systems engaged, scanning for threats. The objective was not necessarily to eliminate the anomaly. Elimination is often impossible or counterproductive, but to re-establish containment, to push the horror back into its cage. The corridors were thick with dust and the acrid smell of ozone. We encountered wounded researchers, escorted them to safety, our eyes never leaving the shadows. Then we found it, a hulking, unnatural mass tearing through the reinforced structure with impossible ease. The firefight was brutal, disorienting. Energy weapons flashed, kinetic rounds impacted the anomaly with sickening thuds, but it absorbed them, regenerating with terrifying speed. We deployed specialized restraints, activated AA, localized Scranton reality anchor, praying it would buy us enough time. The struggle was a blur of adrenaline and instinct, every second a desperate fight for survival, not just for ourselves, but for a world that knew nothing of the desperate gamble being played out in the dark. Eventually, after what felt like an eternity, but was likely only minutes, the creature was subdued, pushed back, and its primary containment re-established. The silence that followed was deafening, punctuated only by heavy breathing and the crackle of damaged systems. The psychological toll of such an event is immense. The seemingly quiet shift had erupted into a life-or-death struggle, a stark reminder that beneath the mundane veneer, the Foundation's world is always on the precipice of utter collapse. The vigilance is not a choice. It is a necessity, a constant companion in the silent, hidden war. The dangers faced by containment guards extend far beyond conventional warfare. We are not just fighting our physical threats. We are confronting the very limits of reality, battling entities that defy logic, physics, and sanity. The scope of anomalies, or SCPs, is vast and terrifying. Keter-class threats represent the apex of this danger. These are anomalies that are either impossible to contain reliably or those whose destructive effects are so extreme that they threaten all human life. I remember being briefed on SCP-682, the hard-to-kill reptile, an indestructible hyper-adaptive entity that has breached containment multiple times, leaving a trail of impossible destruction in its wake. Facing such a creature is not about courage, it's about tactical retreat, containment reestablishment, and profound respect for its sheer, unyielding, destructive capacity. Similarly, cognitohazards are a terrifying category. These aren't physical threats, but concepts, images, or sounds that, upon perception, can cause immediate and often irreversible mental or physical harm. One hypothetical example might be an image that, when viewed, causes instant brain death or a particular sequence of notes that compels self-mutilation. My training included rigorous protocols for identifying and avoiding such threats, often requiring specialized filtering equipment or the complete suppression of certain sensory inputs. This was a psychological warfare carried out against our own minds. Mimetic threats are even more insidious. These are ideas or units of cultural information that propagate like viruses, altering beliefs, memories, or behaviors in those who encounter them. Imagine a nursery rhyme that, once learned, forces you to walk into the nearest body of water and drown, or a specific phrase that makes you believe the sky is green and grass is purple. The Foundation's struggle against mimetic threats is a battle for the very fabric of human thought and culture, a silent war where the weapon is information itself. The physical and mental stress of working in high-threat zones is constant, a pervasive hum, beneath the surface of every action. The sheer improbability of the dangers, the constant exposure to sights and sounds that defy any known scientific framework, slowly erodes the mind. I have seen comrades break, not from physical injury, but from the cumulative weight of existential horror, the realization that everything they thought they knew was a lie, and that the universe is far stranger and more hostile than anyone could ever imagine. Our training had touched on this, but theory pales in comparison to the lived reality. There were stories, whispered in the mess halls during rare moments of respite, of close calls and catastrophic failures. One account described a containment specialist attempting to repair a containment cell for a minor, seemingly harmless anomaly, only for the entity to spontaneously undergo a Keter-level event, transforming into something horrific, killing the entire team in an instant. Another recalled a security detail assigned to a newly discovered anomaly that projected powerful psychological illusions, driving an entire squad to turn their weapons on each other, believing their comrades were hostile entities. I remember being told hypothetical scenarios during training, ones that seemed outlandish and impossible, but I have since seen events that dwarf those in sheer horrifying strangeness. These aren't just risks of injury or death, they are risks of complete self-annihilation, of becoming something other, of having your mind rewritten, your memories erased. To combat this constant psychological onslaught, the Foundation has its own methods. Amnestics, powerful memory-altering drugs, are a common tool not just for the general public who might accidentally witness an anomaly, but also for Foundation personnel. After particularly traumatic events or exposure to certain cognitive or memetic hazards, a partial or even complete memory wipe might be deemed necessary. This is not a punishment, but a preventative measure, a way to preserve the operational effectiveness and sanity of its most valued assets. Psychological counseling is available, though it often involves individuals who themselves have been exposed to similar horrors, making the advice less about civilian coping mechanisms and more about existential resilience. But even with these measures, the mental scars remain, etched into the very core of one's being. The dangers are not just external. They are internal, a constant war waged against the self, a fight to maintain one's humanity in the face of the profoundly inhuman. The gear issued to a containment guard is not simply equipment, it is an extension of their will to survive, finely tuned instruments designed for an impossible war. Our standard Foundation-issued firearms are robust, reliable, and adaptable. While the exact models can vary based on mission parameters, they generally include modular assault rifles capable of firing specialized ammunition, ranging from armor-piercing depleted uranium rounds for physical entities to various forms of energy-based deterrence for non-corporeal threats. Sidearms are heavily customized, often featuring advanced targeting systems and integrated tactical lights, but it's not just about kinetic force. Each guard wears a high-tech combat suit, typically made from an advanced composite material offering ballistic and energy resistance, often layered with specialized protection against biological, chemical, or even anomalous hazards. Integrated into the suit are personal air filtration systems, rebreathers for hostile atmospheres, and environmental sensors that provide real-time data on everything from radiation levels to localized reality fluctuations. Beyond standard weaponry, containment guards utilize a range of highly specialized containment tools. Scranton Reality Anchors, or SRAs, are handheld or portable devices that stabilize localized reality. Anomalies that warp space, time, or the very laws of physics often struggle to function in proximity to an active SRA. During a breach, deploying an SRA can often be the crucial first step in reestablishing control, effectively creating a pocket of normalcy in a world gone mad. We learn to deploy them swiftly, precisely, and to understand their operational limitations, for every tool has its counter. Advanced sensors are integrated into our equipment, detecting everything from electromagnetic fluctuations to psionic signatures, thermal signatures that defy explanation, or even disruptions in the hypothetical Akiva radiation, a theoretical energy associated with conceptual entities. These sensors act as our eyes and ears in environments where traditional senses are rendered useless or actively dangerous. Communication systems are paramount. Our encrypted comms are robust, redundant, and designed for extreme environments. They are the lifeline, connecting us to command, to research teams, and to each other in the chaos of a breach. They feature secure voice channels, data links for real-time tactical overlays, and emergency beacons. Every guard's helmet is equipped with a heads-up display that integrates sensor data, tactical information, and designated objectives. Emergency protocols are hardwired into our training and our gear. Every piece of equipment has multiple redundancies. Every system has a fail-safe. If comms go down, we resort to prearranged signal lights and hand gestures. If our weapon jams, we transition to a backup. What happens when the primary containment fails? The gear provides the framework for reaction. Maintaining and understanding this sophisticated arsenal is a continuous obligation. We spend hours in armories, cleaning, calibrating, and upgrading our equipment. We conduct simulations using virtual reality and live fire exercises, pushing the gear to its limits, learning its quirks, and understanding its advantages and drawbacks against a variety of simulated anomalous threats. This was not merely about proficiency. It was about absolute trust. Trust in the engineering, trust in the maintenance, and trust in the knowledge that this toolkit was often the only thing standing between us and an unimaginable death or worse. The gear is an extension of the Foundation's resolve, a testament to humanity's desperate ingenuity in the face of the utterly unknown. It amplifies our limited human capabilities, allowing us to face things that were never meant to be fought, but always intended to be contained. The life of a containment guard is one defined by profound personal sacrifice and an almost absolute secrecy. The moment you become Foundation personnel, your old life effectively ceases to exist. Family, friends, aspirations, all are rendered secondary at best or utterly severed at worst. The need for absolute secrecy is paramount. The general public simply cannot know the truth of the anomalous world. The psychological and societal ramifications would be catastrophic, leading to widespread panic, societal collapse, and exploitation of dangerous anomalies. This means that communication with the outside world is heavily restricted, often monitored, or actively discouraged. I remember the slow, chilling realization that my identity had been erased, replaced by a designation, a function. Letters, phone calls, even brief visits become luxuries, if not outright impossibilities. The burden of this isolation is immense, a constant heavy weight that gnaws at the edges of one's sanity. What happens when the world you protect has no idea of your existence, let alone your sacrifices? The moral dilemmas faced by guards are often excruciating, devoid of clear-cut good or evil, existing instead in shades of horrifying necessity. We are regularly ordered to carry out actions that, by any civilian standard, would be considered unethical, inhumane, or deeply disturbing. This might involve neutralizing human subjects who have become anomalous and pose a threat, or maintaining containment over entities that exhibit consciousness and sentience, denying them freedom for the sake of the greater good. There are times when sacrifices are needed, where personnel must be knowingly exposed to extreme danger, or even sacrificed to buy precious seconds for containment. I have seen orders given that made my stomach churn, decisions that weighed heavily on the command staff, and then, by extension, on us, the executors. The moral burden is not abstract, it is intensely personal, forcing each guard to construct their own internal framework for navigating decisions that have no right answers, only less catastrophic outcomes. Yet, within the sterile, often brutal environment of the Foundation, a unique camaraderie forms. It is a bond forged in shared terror, in the knowledge that only those who stand beside you truly understand the horrors you face, the weight you carry. These relationships are intensely deep, often transcending the bonds of family, born from moments of absolute vulnerability and utter dependence on each other for survival. Your fellow guards are your shield against the impossible, your confessor in moments of despair, and often your only remaining connection to something resembling human empathy. We are a family, albeit a highly functional, brutally efficient, and deeply scarred one, bound not by blood, but by fire and shared secrets. Ultimately, the dedication to the Foundation's mission is absolute, often superseding personal survival, comfort, or morality. It is a dedication born not of zealous belief, but of grim necessity. We are the last line of defense. If the Foundation fails, humanity falls. This stark reality underpins every action, every sacrifice. Our lives, our peace of mind, our sanity, all are secondary to the imperative to secure, contain, protect. It is a thankless task, unseen by the world we protect, unsung by history. We are the silent protectors, bearing burdens that would crush lesser individuals, performing duties that would shatter the average human mind. And we do it, day after day, not for glory, not for recognition, but because there is no one else, and the consequences of failure are unthinkable. The isolation, the moral ambiguity, the constant threat of unimaginable horror, these are the prices paid for a world that can slumber peacefully, ignorant of the abyss. This ultimate dedication to humanity's safety, often at their own expense, is not a choice, but a grim, unyielding commitment. The SCP Foundation, shrouded in secrecy and speculation, stands as humanity's last bastion against the anomalous, the inexplicable, the outright terrifying. And at the heart of this impossible mission, between the fragile veneer of normalcy and the abyss of cosmic horror, stand the Containment Guards. Their responsibility is immense, a weight that would crush the unprepared, but they bear it with a grim resolve that borders on the heroic. Their unique challenges are unlike any faced by conventional military or law enforcement. They battle entities that defy physics, corrupt minds, and threaten to unravel the very fabric of reality. Their existence is a constant tightrope walk across the brink of oblivion. We have traversed the arduous path from civilian life to Foundation personnel, witnessing the brutal recruitment and unforgiving training that molds individuals into resilient, adaptable, and ultimately expendable instruments of containment. We've seen the deceptive rhythm of their daily routines, always one breath away from a sudden, life-threatening breach, forced to adapt, to fight, to survive against forces that shouldn't exist. We've observed the profound dangers they face, from Keter-class behemoths to insidious cognitohazards and mimetic threats, understanding that the battlefield is often their own mind. We've explored the specialized tools of their trade, the advanced weaponry and reality-anchoring devices that are their only hope against the impossible. And finally, we've touched upon the immense personal sacrifices they make, the isolation, the moral burden, and the unwavering dedication to a mission that goes entirely unacknowledged. The Containment Guard embodies courage, resilience, and an often overlooked heroism. They are the unsung champions of a silent war, operating in the shadows, ensuring that humanity can continue to thrive or at least survive in a universe that is demonstrably hostile and unknowable. They are the individuals who understand that peace is a fragile construct, maintained only through constant vigilance and unimaginable sacrifice. Their story is a chilling reminder of the hidden forces that lie just beyond our perception and the desperate struggle waged daily to keep them at bay. The constant question, what happens when it all falls apart, hangs unspoken in the air, a burden shouldered by these few. So the next time you feel a shiver down your spine or notice a fleeting anomaly in the corner of your eye, remember the unseen, the silent, the dedicated. Remember those who secure, contain, protect. Their lives are the price for our ignorance, and their unwavering defense is the last bastion against the truth. It is a bleak, unforgiving truth, and they live it every single day. It's a truth that seeps into their bones, a chilling reality that no amount of psychological conditioning can fully erase. The psychological toll these guardians endure is immense, a silent attrition that often goes unnoticed, even by themselves, until it manifests in catastrophic ways. We talk about the physical dangers, the dismemberment, the reality alterations, the instant annihilation, but the insidious creep of madness, the erosion of the self, is perhaps the most pervasive and ultimately the most crippling threat. Imagine living in a constant state of hypervigilance where every shadow could conceal a predatory entity. Every sound could be a precursor to a containment breach, every passing stranger a potential host for a mimetic infection. This isn't just stress, it's a fundamental reprogramming of how the brain perceives reality. Their minds are battlegrounds, constantly bombarded by subliminal threats, cognitohazards, and the sheer existential horror of what they encounter. Many SCPs aren't just physically dangerous, they attack the very fabric of consciousness. Consider SCP-096 not just a creature that rips you apart, but one that triggers an unavoidable fatal obsession simply by being seen. Or SCP-1425, a book that slowly but surely drives its readers to madness, self-mutilation, and cult-like devotion. These aren't simple monsters, they are architects of psychological devastation. Foundation personnel, especially the Containment Guard, are routinely exposed to information and entities that would shatter the average human psyche. They develop coping mechanisms, often maladaptive ones, that allow them to function, but never truly heal. They become adept at compartmentalizing horror, at filing away unspeakable images, at constructing mental fortresses against the onslaught of the absurd. But even the strongest fortresses have cracks, and through those cracks, the madness seeps in. Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is not just a frequent diagnosis, it's practically an occupational hazard. But it's a form of PTSD amplified 1,000-fold. It's not just the memory of a traumatic event, it's the constant gnawing awareness that those things are still out there, that the fragile peace they defend is always on the verge of collapse. Sleep offers little refuge, haunted by nightmares that are less about remembered trauma and more about prophetic dread. Relationships crumble under the weight of secrecy and emotional unavailability. How do you explain to a loved one that your distant stare isn't disinterest, but the echo of an entity that feeds on emotion and you're trying to suppress every feeling lest you attract its attention? How do they understand why you flinch at a specific color or a particular sequence of numbers or a common phrase because you know it's a trigger for an information hazard that could reformat your brain? They can't. And so the Guard isolates themselves, not just for operational security, but for personal sanity. The Foundation understands this attrition. They have entire departments dedicated to psychological support and mental health for their personnel. But even these resources, advanced as they may be, often serve more as damage control than true healing. Therapists within the Foundation often become de facto confessors, listening to stories that would grant them entry into psychiatric care themselves, required to maintain their own sanity while processing the unfiltered horrors of others. They use specialized amnestic regimens, not just to wipe the memories of civilians, but sometimes to give their own personnel a fleeting reprieve from the most damaging mental imprints. But amnestics are a double-edged sword. They can erase specific traumas, but they can also chip away at the very essence of personality, memory, and identity. A person might forget the specific horrors of a breach, but the underlying anxiety, the sense of impending doom, the feeling of profound unreality, often remains. The culture of the Containment Guard, by necessity, fosters a certain grim stoicism. Emotions, fear, grief, even joy, are seen as potential vulnerabilities, things that can be exploited by cunning SCPs or lead to fatal errors in judgment during high-stakes operations. They learn to suppress, to compartmentalize, to numb themselves. This makes them incredibly effective in the field, turning them into efficient, unfeeling machines when required. But it comes at a profound cost to their humanity. They witness acts of unimaginable cruelty, both from the anomalies they contain and, at times, from the necessary harshness of containment protocols. They are forced to make impossible choices, sacrificing one life to save many, or containing an entity that is suffering, knowing their actions condemn it to an eternity of torment, all for the greater good. These moral quandaries are not easily forgotten. They accumulate, forming a thick scar tissue over the soul. And what about their ethical framework? The Foundation's prime directive is secure, contain, protect. But protect isn't just about humanity at large. It's about protecting humanity from itself and the truths it cannot comprehend. This often means operating in a morally gray, sometimes outright black area. Containment often involves deception, manipulation, and deprivation, even for sentient SCPs that may be benign, or simply misunderstood, or even victims themselves. The Guard is on the front lines of enforcing these protocols. They are the ones who usher children away from their anomalous parents, who restrain beings capable of great love but also great danger, who stand guard over entities suffering eternal agony. They are the executioners of necessary evils, the enforcers of a silent, hidden law. This constant engagement with moral compromise grinds away at their ethical core, forcing them to justify the unjustifiable, to rationalize the horrific, all for that abstract greater good. They live in a world where the laws of physics are suggestions, where gods walk, where nightmares are tangible. How does one maintain a stable worldview when the very ground beneath your feet is constantly shifting? They see the impossible, the illogical, the blatantly contradictory, and are expected not only to accept it, but to actively combat it. This constant exposure to the absurd can lead to a phenomenon known as reality drift. Their perception of what is normal, what is real, what is possible, becomes skewed. A civilian might be shocked by a ghost. A containment guard might be annoyed that it didn't stay corporeal long enough for them to zap it with a thermic dampener. The mundane world begins to seem flimsy, unremarkable, almost fake, in comparison to the vibrant, terrifying, and utterly real world of anomalies. Integrating back into normal society, if that were ever an option, would be impossible. They are changed fundamentally, irrevocably. Consider the sense of isolation. Beyond the secrecy, beyond the emotional numbing, they are isolated by their unique existence. Who else can understand the weight of knowing that there's a sentient black hole in basement site 19, or that every reflection could be a gateway to a hostile dimension? Who can relate to the adrenaline rush of facing down an elder god, or the quiet despair of containing a sentient human suffering endless transformations? Their experiences are so far removed from the common human experience that true connection outside the Foundation is almost impossible. Fellow Guard members are their only true peers, their only confidants. This creates an intense, almost familial bond within their units, forged in the crucible of shared trauma and unwavering trust. They are literally each other's keepers, relying on their comrades for their lives, for their sanity, for their very existence. This camaraderie is a powerful force, but it also reinforces their separation from the rest of humanity. And for all this sacrifice, all this suffering, all this unseen heroism, there is no recognition. No medals, no parades, no public mourning for the fallen. When a containment guard dies in the line of duty, they simply vanish. Their families are given vague explanations of occupational accidents, or often, thanks to sophisticated information suppression techniques and amnestics, they simply forget the individual ever existed. Their names are recorded in classified databases, their sacrifices acknowledged only by the grim statistics of containment breaches and casualty reports known only to a select few. They are ghosts in the machine, their legacy written in the continued survival of a world that doesn't even know it was ever in danger. This complete lack of societal acknowledgement is a profound psychological burden. It means their pain is suffered in silence, their heroism is uncelebrated, and their deaths are unmourned by the very people they protect. It strips away the traditional motivations for sacrifice, fame, glory, even posthumous respect, leaving only the stark, unvarnished commitment to the mission. This brings us to the profound dedication. What compels an individual to endure such a burden, day after day, year after year, knowing that the ultimate reward is merely to prevent the end of everything anonymously? It's a deep-seated belief, almost a spiritual conviction, that what they do is fundamentally necessary. It's the understanding that if they don't do it, no one else will, and the consequences are unthinkable. It's a refusal to let chaos consume order, a stubborn defiance in the face of existential dread. It's an act of pure, unadulterated, and often despairing selflessness. They become living embodiments of the Foundation's motto, not just a catchy phrase, but a way of life, a reason to exist: secure, contain, protect. Each word becomes a mantra, a shield against the encroaching madness, a justification for every sacrifice, every horror endured. But even this dedication, this unwavering resolve, is not without its cracks. There are moments of doubt, moments of profound despair. What if it's all for naught? What if the universe is inherently chaotic and they are merely delaying the inevitable? What if they are just prolonging humanity's ignorance, preventing it from truly understanding its place in a terrifying cosmos? These are the philosophical battles fought in the silent watches of the night, in the sterile corridors between containment chambers, in the moments after a comrade falls. These questions are never fully answered, only pushed down, suppressed in favor of the immediate, tangible task of containment. Because to dwell too long on such existential nihilism would be to surrender, and surrender is not an option. The Containment Guard is a living testament to humanity's stubborn refusal to simply lie down and die. They are the sharp edge of defiance, the bulwark against the unknown. They are forced to confront the universe in its rawest, most terrifying form, and instead of crumbling, they stand and fight. Their heroism isn't the flashy, publicized kind. It's the quiet, persistent, bone-weary kind that comes from simply showing up day after day to face down the things that would unmake reality. They are the ones who pay the ultimate price for humanity's innocence, allowing the world to spin on, oblivious to the horrors churning just beneath the surface. And what happens when they fail? The Foundation has protocols for everything, even the end of the world. Global catastrophic events, K-class scenarios, are planned for, however grimly. But the failure of the Containment Guard isn't always a large-scale event. It can be a slow, gradual erosion, a single anomaly slipping past, a subtle alteration to reality that spreads like a virus. It can be a breach that goes undetected, a cognitohazard that infects a population, a mimetic agent that rewrites history. These are the insidious failures that keep the Guard awake at night, because they understand that a single error can unravel the fabric of existence. They are the last line of defense, and the consequences of their failure are not just local, they are existential. The silent, unacknowledged war they wage is not static. The anomalies evolve, adapt, and sometimes learn. The Foundation must evolve with them, constantly refining its methods, its technologies, and its understanding of the impossible. This means the Containment Guard is also in a constant state of training, adapting to new threats, mastering new equipment, and grappling with newly discovered facets of reality. Their education is never complete. Every new SCP is a lesson, often learned at great personal cost. They are perpetual students in the most dangerous classroom imaginable, their curriculum written in blood and esoteric phenomena. Their legacy, though unseen, is etched into the very continued existence of human civilization. Every sunset enjoyed, every child born, every story told, every peace treaty signed, all of it is predicated on the unseen struggle waged by these individuals. They are the custodians of normalcy, the quiet sentinels guarding the gates of chaos. They are the shields against the incomprehensible, the anchors in a sea of madness. Their lives are a perpetual state of vigilance, a constant embrace of the terrifying, all for a humanity that will never know their names, never understand their sacrifice, and never fully grasp the depth of the darkness they hold at bay. So, when you consider the concept of heroism, look beyond the glittering accolades and public renown. Think of the grim-faced individuals in dark uniforms, moving silently through sterile corridors, facing down horrors that defy human comprehension. Think of the weight they carry, the secrets they keep, the humanity they sacrifice, all so that you might continue to live in blissful ignorance. Their heroism is not a choice made once, but a continuous, often agonizing commitment. It is the heroism of the utterly anonymous, the endlessly forgotten, the perpetually suffering, who stand unblinking against the void. Their silent oath, secure, contain, protect, resonates with a power that transcends mere words, a power born of unwavering dedication in the face of absolute despair. They are the thin, flickering line of sanity in a universe that is fundamentally, terrifyingly insane. And for that, we owe them a debt that can never be repaid, a gratitude that can never be expressed, and a knowledge that can never be known. They are the true quiet professionals, the unseen architects of our continued dream. And yet, despite this monumental burden, despite the constant threat of erasure, both personal and global, there's a strange, paradoxical beauty in their work. It's a beauty born of purpose, of an unyielding commitment to something greater than oneself. Think of the researchers poring over ancient texts or cutting-edge anomalous materials, their minds sharp and relentless, seeking patterns, weaknesses, and ultimately understanding. They are the frontline philosophers, grappling with concepts that would fracture lesser minds, attempting to categorize, to define, to tame the utterly indefinable. Their laboratories are not just sterile environments for scientific inquiry. They are intellectual battlegrounds where the very fabric of reality is interrogated and occasionally, temporarily, bent to their will. Then there are the agents, the field operatives, the ones who venture into the heart of the anomalous. These aren't your typical action movie heroes. They are often quiet, unassuming individuals possessing an unnerving blend of courage and pragmatism. They've seen things that would drive most people to madness, yet they've learned to compartmentalize, to adapt, to function under unimaginable pressure. Their training goes far beyond marksmanship or tactical maneuvers. It delves into the psychology of fear, the semantics of esoteric rituals, and the improvisational theater of deception. They have to be diplomats and interrogators, trackers and protectors, often all within the span of a single classified mission. They are the eyes and ears, the hands that secure, the voices that calm, or, when necessary, the voices that command immediate evacuation. Each scar, both visible and invisible, tells a story of an encounter with something that shouldn't be, something that defies the laws of their known universe. And yet, they return, often to debriefings that seek to quantify and categorize their trauma for the sake of future operational success. The engineers and technicians, often overlooked, are the unsung heroes of containment. They design the impossible prisons, the fortifications that hold back realities that leak and deform and consume. They calculate structural integrity against forces that exist outside of our physics. They devise power systems for devices that draw energy from unknown dimensions, and they build monitoring stations that can detect the subtle whispers of an encroaching supernatural phenomenon. Their work demands an incredible blend of scientific rigor and imaginative foresight, a constant pushing of the boundaries of what is technologically feasible. A containment breach isn't just a failure of security. It's a failure of imagination, a failure to anticipate the utterly unprecedented. And so, these individuals stand ready, constantly iterating, constantly improving, often under extreme deadlines and with resources that are either ludicrously advanced or terrifyingly scarce. They are the architects of the impossible, the builders of the walls that protect us from the encroaching weirdness. And what of the ethical committees, the O5 Council, and the countless administrators? These are the individuals who grapple with the profound moral implications of their work. When you're containing entities that embody existential threats or that blur the lines between life and death, consciousness and matter, good and evil, the ethical dilemmas are staggering. Is it permissible to sacrifice a handful of lives to save millions? Is it right to exploit an anomaly's properties, even if that exploitation benefits humanity, if it causes unimaginable suffering to the anomaly itself? These aren't simple questions with clear-cut answers. The answers are often grim, and the choices are often between various shades of horror. The weight of these decisions, made in sterile conference rooms by individuals who are often more philosophers than generals, is immense. They are the custodians of the Foundation's soul, constantly debating, redefining, and sometimes, tragically, compromising their own humanity in the pursuit of the greater good. This isn't a story of good versus evil in the traditional sense. It's a story of order attempting to assert itself against chaos, of understanding striving against the utterly incomprehensible. It's about a fragile edifice of normalcy constructed over an abyss of madness. The Foundation, in its grand, terrifying ambition, seeks not to destroy the anomalous, for many anomalies are beyond destruction, and some even vital. Rather, it seeks to understand, to neutralize, and to integrate where possible, or most commonly, to simply hold it at bay. It's a continuous, never-ending siege against the universe's inherent tendencies towards the bizarre and the terrifying. Consider the notion of sacrifice. It's not just the dramatic, heroic self-immolation in the face of a monstrous entity. It's the daily sacrifice of personal freedom, of family ties, of a normal life. It's the sacrifice of ignorance, the burden of knowing too much, of seeing the world not as a gentle, predictable place, but as a thin veneer over unimaginable dangers. Many Foundation personnel live and die within its confines, their entire existence dedicated to its mission. They forego relationships, privacy, and often their very identities, becoming gears in a vast clandestine machine. Their lives are carefully curated, their information compartmentalized, their loyalties absolute. The psychological toll of this existence is immense. Many succumb to stress, to anomalous influence, or simply to utter exhaustion. Their sacrifices are often unrecorded, their memories erased, their contributions anonymously folded into the vast historical archives of the Foundation. And yet, despite the grim realities, there are profoundly human moments. The camaraderie, forged in shared terror, the quiet jokes exchanged between shifts guarding a world-ending device, the mentorship offered by a seasoned researcher to a wide-eyed recruit who has just witnessed their first impossible anomaly. These small, fleeting moments of connection, of shared humanity amidst the inhumanity, are what sustain them. They are the tiny beacons of light in the vast, enveloping darkness, reminding them of what they are fighting for. The Foundation's existence is a testament to humanity's unyielding drive to survive, to categorize, to understand, even when faced with overwhelming evidence that some things are meant to remain unknown. It's a darkly optimistic worldview, one that posits that even against impossible odds, reason and organization can, for a time, hold the line. They are not trying to change the world or usher in a new age of enlightenment. Their mission is far more fundamental, far more desperate, to simply preserve the status quo, to keep the world turning, without unraveling into a chaos of impossible phenomena. They are the silent custodians of the everyday, the guardians of the mundane, ensuring that when you wake up tomorrow morning, the sun still rises in the same sky, the laws of physics still hold firm, and reality remains, more or less, consistent. Their struggle is a mirror to the ancient myths of heroes facing impossible monsters, but without the triumphant parades or the adoration of the masses. Instead, their victories are measured in anomalies contained, breaches averted, classified documents secured, and a world that continues to sleep soundly, utterly unaware of the impossible battles fought on its behalf. Their reward is the continued existence of that very ignorance, the perpetuation of a blissful illusion. To truly understand the SCP Foundation and its personnel is to confront the terrifying fragility of our perceived reality. It is to acknowledge that the universe is far stranger, far more dangerous, and infinitely more awe-inspiring than our senses can encompass or our minds can fully grasp. The Foundation operates at the edge of that understanding, peering into the abyss, holding it back with a threadbare curtain of secrecy and an indomitable will. They are the ultimate pragmatists, sacrificing individual well-being, personal morality, and often their very sanity for the collective good. So, the next time you feel a shiver down your spine during a quiet moment or catch a glimpse of something unsettling in the periphery of your vision, perhaps remember them. Remember the nameless, faceless individuals who toil in the darkness, who stand guard against the impossible, who live and die to keep the world safe for you and me. Their legacy is not etched in stone or written in history books, but in the quiet continuity of every single day. They are the guardians of our fragile sanity, the silent protectors of a reality that could, at any moment, fracture into a million impossible pieces. They are the absolute last line of defense against a universe that doesn't care if we exist or not. A universe teeming with wonders and horrors beyond our wildest imaginings. And in their unwavering resolve, in their quiet dedication, there is a profound, if somber, heroism that truly defines the extraordinary. They are not just safeguarding humanity, they are safeguarding the very concept of humanity in a cosmos that seeks to redefine it in terrifying ways. Their secure, contain, protect isn't just a motto, it's a desperate prayer whispered into the void, and by some impossible miracle, it often works. Their lives are a constant act of courage, a defiance against the inevitable, an unwavering commitment to the dream of a sane world, even when they know deep down that sanity is merely a fleeting, fragile construct within a truly chaotic universe. They are the quiet professionals, the unseen architects, and the perpetual sentinels, holding back the tide one impossible day at a time.